Guy. Oops, sorry. So I'm a CTA and Chief Architect at TCS. I've got Salesforce certs. I've been a member of LDAG, I think, since 2015. Did a talk with Keir. And in my spare time, I like football. It's a good year to be a Fulham supporter. Music and comedy.
Hi everyone. I'm Himanshu. I'm technical architect. Works with Guy. We both work in TCS, Tata Consultancy Services. That's me.
Okay. Cool. So we'll talk today about enhanced field tracking. So while so we all know about field tracking, I assume, right? An out-of-box feature allows you to configure up to 20 fields per object, where you track changes, and then you can also report on them with a history object. So lovely feature, out-of-box, nice and simple, but it has governor limits. So limited to 20 fields, and your history is tracked for 18 months. Sounds simple, but quite a few of my customers come and ask, right, I need more. Examples would be, we both worked for a UK government-owned organization that needs to track everything, everywhere, all the time. Or we have customers that have multiple projects. Each one wants to track 20 different fields, and you hit those limits very quickly. So the question is, what can you do if you need more? So you've got a few options. So we mentioned Shield Field Audit Trail. So Shield Field Audit Trail increases the limit from 20 fields to 60 fields, and this is less known. Actually makes it into a soft limit. So actually, that 60 field, if you talk to AE, can be increased, but again, it doesn't scale. So at one customer, we managed to increase it up to 100, but it won't increase. You know, if you have more than 100 fields per object, your data model's wrong, but it means you can't track more fields. It is the simplest solution. It is the fastest to execute, but of course, it comes at a cost. So there was, I mentioned before, full Shield is 30% of your ACV. If you want just one feature, it's 10% of your ACV, obviously somewhat negotiable, but still, for a lot of organizations, quite a hefty cost. So next option is to create, now come your custom solutions. Yeah.
Sorry, you said we can extend up to 60 or 100 fields, right?
So by default, when you enable it, you get 60.
Right.
But actually, it's a soft limit, and you can ask for more, but it doesn't. There's no full. There's still a limit.
What about the retention period? Will that increase?
Oh, I don't remember.
It's 18 months.
Still 18 months?
It is still 18 months, yeah. It's just the number of fields increase.
Yeah.
Oh, that's bad. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Himanshu. Next option, so now comes your customization option. So I mentioned that example of, I had that customer, they had more than 100 fields, and you go, your data model's wrong. So you can take, so that happens quite often when you have an organization and have multiple implementation. So I took an example of, let's say, on the case object, you've got complaints, you've got consent, you've got warranty, you've got escalation, each one you have your own custom fields, and make that object very, very long. So for your data model, it's probably a good option to look at extensions. So if you're a Java developer, you might be familiar with the extension pattern. So rather than stick all of your custom fields on case, you can create your extension object. It's good for separation of functionality. And it also means that each one of your objects gets another 20 fields to extend. Yeah, so that's the that's the pro. And it's, I would say, relatively minimal effort. The con is, well, there's still a limit. And also now your reporting and viewing is on multiple objects. So obviously that's a complexity, and obviously you need to manage your view. But again, I would say it's probably more valid when you have that case of too many fields because you're trying to model too many scenarios on one object. Your next option is to do archiving. So there are archiving tools. I'll mention a few of them, but if you really want to, you can build your own archiving. So you would, for example, and this is what we propose for that customer, that's UK government organization, you enable CDC on all your object, which is a paid feature, and then you collect all of those CDC events and put them in an archive. If you want it to be Salesforce only, you'd put it on Heroku, and then you'd have Salesforce Connect to fetch your history as external objects. So this now comes with no limits. Yeah, it's you retain it for as long as you keep your database. But of course you need to, and there's no, this solution would have no impact on DML, right? If you use CDC, that's async by default, so it doesn't impact your normal DML. There's still a cost here of CDC, of the Heroku database, of Heroku Connect, and it takes time to implement. So there are packages that give the same thing. For example, our current customer has own on backup and on archive, which is now Salesforce owned, I think. Yes. And that gives you basically an implementation of this out of box, or Deceiver, other solutions apply. And
what's the pricing for increasing the backup data? It's per, what's the typical pricing model? Let's say my records grow significantly and I need to store these records, let's say externally for archiving.
Correct.
And the price increases significantly for something like this?
Depends where you store it.
Yeah. Storing data outside of Salesforce is cheap.
Cheaper than, so you probably know Salesforce storage is expensive. So like I said, that's one option. Obviously you can put AWS, GCP, high drive in your shed. I don't know, yeah, you can do all of those. And then last option is to go with a fully custom solution. So create a custom object, or if you're worried about cost, a big object for storing your data. You'd still need to push all of your changes there. So you could use the CDC model I mentioned before, or you can have, if you have a trigger factory, if you've done your if you bulkified your code and you have a trigger factory, you can, in your trigger factory, you can create the, you can add the method to push your data into your custom or big object, and then obviously you need to customize the reporting on that big object, and you'll need to create your LWCs to show the history of it. So this gives you a nice one centralized solution. Again, there's no limits to it because you store it in your custom or big object. But there's the cost of storage. Even a big object would have a cost of storage. If you're using big object, that we talked about encryption earlier, big object doesn't have encryption at rest. And there is an impact on DML, because every time you do a DML, you're writing a record to your custom or big object. So maybe there's an app that can do that. And the answer is yes. Actually, there's multiple apps. So Peter Cheetham, who's been a member of this forum, mentioned the company he works with now. I forgot the name. I promised I could tell it. There are several AppExchange tools that do this. And we're going to show you one today that comes from Salesforce Labs. So it's basically an implementation of the class pattern we saw. The tracks, data types, give you search, give you activation, and a customer history object. And I hand over to Himanshu, who'll take the part of the talk.
Right. Thank you, Guy. So, about the field, about the enhanced field history tracking app. Of course, it's a managed package, which has been provided by Salesforce Labs. So, of course, you can trust this app. It's available on AppExchange. There's no license cost available with it. It's available for free, but it doesn't mean it will be free forever. So, if people start using it, Salesforce can obviously monetize it in future. So yeah, sorry, you have a question?
So, suppose if you have to suggest this to any government organizations, they are more concerned on the security part of it, installing a managed package into their Salesforce, right? Into their Salesforce ecosystem. So, how do we recommend it? Because it is, what kind of, there will be certain questions with regards to the Salesforce security protocols that organizations do. So is it enabled with government projects? If you are handling?
I think it should, because it has come from Salesforce. It is not from any third-party supplier, something, right? So it's coming from Salesforce, and they are recommending it to use it. So it should ideally, yeah.
You probably would need to check with your, team. But as we said, it's supplied by Salesforce, so you should already have the MSA in place. You already trust the vendor. Being Salesforce Labs, there's no support for it. Exactly. Yeah, but in terms of so that in terms of supporting it, but in terms of security, again, check with your client. But it's already the vendor you have. Whereas if you go with a third party, with Own, or Deceiver, you have to onboard that supplier.
Exactly.
And it is, sorry, you said it was a managed package?
It's a managed Salesforce Labs
So it
package.
will have gone through the Salesforce security review as well. It couldn't have got to this point without going through quite a rigorous security review process, and that probably is.
But like I said, any other third-party managed package, you'd have to go for vendor onboarding. Whereas this is the vendor is Salesforce. Which you've gone through already because you're on Salesforce.
Right. Okay. And like I mentioned earlier, right, with the normal standard out-of-the-box history tracking, there's a limit of 20. Even if you go by Shield, there's a limit of 60. But I mean, it's flexible, but it's 60. But with this package, there's no limit. You can track any number of fields. If you want to track 100 fields, you can. Of course, there's something wrong, like Guy said earlier, but you can track any number of fields you want. And there's no limit as well. You can keep the data for as long as you want. If you want data for 10 years, like we had a requirement for one of the project where they want to keep the data for 10 years, but standard Salesforce just provided for 18 months, but this provide unlimited, right? You can keep it forever. So that's one of the benefit. It tracks custom as well as standard objects. So any object you create within Salesforce, it tracks all of them. So there's no limit around it as well. One of the big benefit again is you just need to set it up once for each object, and that's it. You can just check the fields you want to, and it's done. So it's very easy to configure, easy to set up. There are 4 steps you need to follow when you do the setup. The first step is you need to create tracking object configuration record. So for each object, you just need to create that configuration once. So let's say if you're doing it for lead, you need to create that tracking information once. That's it, done. Second step is you need to update the field tracking. So by default, when you enable this tracking, Salesforce enable this tracking for all the fields. So if you have 100 fields, it will enable it for all the 100 fields. But you need to be mindful, and you need to make sure you track only the fields which are required. I'll tell you the downside later on why I'm saying that, but you need to be sure you track only the fields which you want to track, right? Third step is, again, it's a managed package, but you need to create an Apex trigger for each object. So whenever you start with any object, you just need, and Salesforce has provided the code as well for the trigger. So you just need to copy the code and just paste it and done. So you just need to create that trigger once per object. So if you want to update fields later on, you don't need to do anything. You just check the field, that's it, done. And the step 4 is you can add LWC. There's a LWC component provided by Salesforce as part of this package, which you can add to your object page layout, and you can see the changes of that particular record. But that's not a mandatory step. The first 3 are mandatory step, which you have to do if you want to track. The 4th step is for your usability if you want to see it in the record page. So I'll quickly move on to the demo. So this is the app, Enhanced Field History Tracking. It's available on AppExchange, like I said earlier. In my demo org, you can see I have installed this package, which is called Enhanced Field History Tracking. So you can see it has created an app. And within the app, it comes along with the 3 custom objects. First one is history configuration. So this is where 3 custom objects. The first one is enhanced field history configuration. This is the object where we do all the configuration for specific one object, right? So one at a time. Second object is where you see all the history changes. So if you are making changes to any field, any object, you see all the changes here in this particular. It basically records all the history changes in this enhanced field history object. You can see it all together within this particular object as a list of records. But of course, with the LWC component, you can see it on the page layout as well. I'll show it in the my demo as well. And the third is the error log object. So if while doing any configuration, you miss something and it doesn't work, then those error messages you can see in the error logs as well. So these are the 3 major objects which are part of this app. So I'll try to do one configuration. So here you can see I've done configuration for 3 objects, account, contact, and lead. I will show you how to do the configuration, right? So Okay, I'll show you one of the configuration first. So let's say this is the account. You just need to map all the fields which are part of the history object to this configuration object.
It's very hemming up.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay. Yeah.
Does this app also track like which user has made the changes? Yes. And does it also track the old value and the new value?
Correct. I'll show that both the things. Right. Okay. So when you do this configuration, you need to mention which object you are making these changes for. And then, like you asked the question, right? Old value, new value. So it tracks old value, new value. So there are basically 3 types of fields here, if you see. One is normal old value field mapping. Second one is old value rich field mapping. Third one is encrypted field mapping. So in the standard out of the box, you can't track all types of field. So like you can't track rich text area. You can't track, I think, multi-select pick list as well. So there are, you can't track formula as well. So there are certain types of field which you can't track, but here in this, there's no limitation. If all types of field will changes, you can track here in old field mapping, which is text type, normal text type. But rich text area changes, you can't track in normal field type, normal text type. So there's a separate field for that, which is old value rich field mapping. Similarly, encryption changes you can't track in any of the 2 type fields. So so there's a separate field for that, which is old value encryption field. Okay. Now because there is old, there is a new as well. So if you see here, the new value mapping field. So you need to do the mapping of the new value field, new value rich, new value encrypted. Okay. You can track the label of the field. So it's not basically for your tracking, but when you report on the record, you can see, okay, what's the label of the field, right? Where you have made the changes. Similarly, for the API name, it records the API name of the field which has changed. Similarly, you can see the data type as well. What was the data type of the field which has changed? And you asked the question about the who modified it. So you can, of course, track their changes as well. You can see modified date, when was it modified, and modified by, who modified it, and it also record the record ID. It doesn't change, of course, record ID doesn't change, but you can see the record ID. Again, it's for reporting purpose. So because you can report on, this is just another custom object, you can do reporting. So you can report on these fields as well. Okay. Yeah.
So how does that encrypted field will be reflecting on the big object then?
Right. I'll show that. Okay. So so this is, once you have done this configuration, the configuration is easy. Once you have done the configuration, you can either create new one every time, or I've enabled a clone button here. So you can see I can just click on clone, all the configuration will automatically come. Okay, I can just change it. So let's say I want to do it for case object now. I can just write case. Okay, all the configuration, everything will remain same. I just need to make sure that I check this tracking active. So this is one of the great feature of this, because if you don't want to track the whole object, you can just disable this. Okay, once you disable it, the whole object will not be tracked. And if you want to track, you can just enable it and save it. So that's basically this step one, the 4-step process which I mentioned. This is the first step. Now the second step is you can define the fields. So like I said, Salesforce or this package automatically enable all the fields. So you need here, like I enabled it for case, it enabled all the field automatically. Yeah. What you need to do is you need to track the fields which you need to. How you can do it? If let's say you don't want to track is deleted field, you can go here, uncheck it, and that's it. Save. So once you click here,
and it's showing you the out-of-box field tracking as well, right? So you don't have, you want to do both or not?
Yeah. If you are tracking it out of the box, it's checked here and it's unchecked by default. So when you create this record, this app automatically takes care of that part as well.
Suppose if you want to check it, like for example, out of the box will only track it for 18 months, right? After that, can you check here also and say beyond 18 months it can be tracked?
Yeah, you can. So here you can enable tracking for both as well. So because this is independent of the standard.
Both the records would come, like for example, in the field history tracking.
It's two different things. Out of box. Out of box will go to the history object, the one that comes out of box. Whereas this is, remember, it's one custom object where everything is tracked.
One question, Himanshu. So if I use this one, right? So is there a provision to see in the related list these trackings, everything like for case where case history, right? Yeah. Something like that. Yeah.
So I'll come to this. That is step 4. I'm currently on step 2. So when I come to the step 4, you'll see how you can see it on the record page, right? So this is step 2, where you can enable the field tracking of the required fields you want. Now that is saved. Now the step 3 is, on the right side you can see the Salesforce has provided this code, sample code. Okay, so you just need, what you need to do is you need to just enable it for your the object you are tracking for. So I just did it for case, and I created this. This is the same class. What I just did here is, if you see, I just added case in the case. It's the same, exactly same class. I just added the name case, the object name case here, in place of object name. So here, if you see, it says object API name, right? It's at 5 places. I just added that name here. Okay. What I'll do is I can just go and create a trigger. So I will create a new Apex trigger. I think it's for long, so let me just go back.
Do we need to do it every time? We need to enable it for any object?
Yes, once you need to do for every object, once.
So it's still the custom solution. It's packaged, but it's still a custom solution. Yeah.
So I can name whatever I want to, and I can choose the object here. I mean, it's simple, right? The normally how we create a trigger. That's it, done. And I can copy and paste my code here. Save, right? So I just created it for the case object. So if you go back, earlier it was 3. Now I just created it for the case object. So that's the step 3 in the process, right? Now step 4 is where you ask a question about how we can show it on the record page. So I'll go to any case record, and I can just drag and drop there is a standard lightning component which comes along with it. So this is the lightning component, enhanced field history tracking. What I can do is I can add it to the existing related list here.
Is this an open source where Salesforce posted the code as well?
To manage package, or no?
No, but sometimes there are sometimes we post as an open source. Or now it's managed package, but sometimes we provide a repo.
I didn't check. Maybe it's on their Git repo. But anyhow, it's a managed package, so you'll have to add your own. Yeah?
Also worth always checking on unofficial Salesforce to see if there's something similar there.
So now I added it here. You can see this lightning component is available here on the right side. What I'll do is I'll make a change. So let's change the priority of this from low to high. Okay, and if I go here, okay, it's not coming. So that's seen the error log. Okay, did I enable tracking? Okay. Enabled.
Maybe not the field.
Oh yeah, let's see if I enable tracking for priority. Yeah, it's not enabled here, right? So that's why it was not coming. So what I need to do is I need to track priority. And if I go back, thank you guys. If I go back, I change the priority from high to medium. You can see that you should be able to see the changes here. Cool. So that's the old value. That's a new value. even though we have separate fields for the types of encryption, rich text, and normal text, right? You will see that the Lightning component here has been built in such a way that you will see it here, right? So I created one for one of the object, so I'll show that. So I did it for account. In account, I created two fields, one as a rich text and one as encryption. So I think somebody asked the question about the encryption as well, so I'll answer that as well here. So let's go to any account. So let's pick up this account. Okay, so this is a NI number field which I just created. This is an encrypted field, and here is the account detail field, which is rich text area. Okay, so if I add anything here, let's say new account as a detail. Okay, and as click on save, this changes should be available here. Yeah, you can see here the details are available here. It's similar to how you were seeing in the old any other type of field, but it's available here, even though the field type is different. Similarly, for the encryption, now that's one of the drawback I would say here, because let's say if I add any NI number, okay, 1, 2, 3, DF, right, whatever, right? Now, because this field is encrypted, I can't see the change here. Okay, I don't have access to encryption and see encrypted data. That's why I can't see it here, right? It's XX. But when I go here in the related list, I can see the change. So that's one of the drawback of this particular app. So you need to make sure, I mean, either you create your own LWC component to make the change if you want to encrypt the data.
Or don't track.
Or don't track it, yeah? Yes.
Is that web component checking field level security as well? So no encryption, but just if the user can't see that field, will they be able to see the history?
I mean, it's a different object. So you have to, it's a different object. So the FLS on your source object won't be on that custom object. So you'll have to implement it, but...
Yeah, but they could have done that in the web component. So I'm asking, did they?
It's managed, right? So we don't know. This object is managed, so we don't have control over it.
Yeah, we don't have control over that, but you can create your own LWC component and you can work it out, right? You can't change this component, but of course you can create your own component and build security around it.
I mean, the encrypted field, it was showing the value. Is it because in the shield we have not included?
This is not shield. This is not shield. This is not shield.
It's platform encryption.
No, I mean, is it because in case of shield we have not included that object for encryption?
This is not shield.
This is
shield
not
encrypts
shield.
at rest, not in the screen. This is platform encryption. But the custom object is not platform encryption. You can't think about it. It stores it in the same field, right? New value, old value. So you don't know. And obviously, when the same, if you do reporting, it's going to be much more difficult because it stores it all in the same field. So there is a con.
It's only we had a dev meetup 2 weeks ago. We just implemented similar requirement from scratch.
We also done a custom one. So yeah, there's a package. Yeah.
Sorry, this might sound silly, but I'm kind of wondering how this will track the controlling and the dependent fields. Let's say if we put a tracker on the controlling field, will it track the dependent field as well?
But your dependent field will of course change, right? The value, it's another field. It's just another field. Your dependent field value will change along with your controlling field. So, okay, I'll show you that example, right? I can't show you exactly the example you're looking for, but because they are two separate fields, if you look at that way, how it will look, I'll show that. Okay. Yeah. So let's say you make changes to 2 fields at a time. So let's say you make changes to the fax number of this account, okay, and you change the phone number as well, okay, and you save it. So it will create 2 records instead of 1 single record here. So you will see fax number has changed from blank to something and from old value to new value here as account phone number. So because you make 2 changes, it creates 2 records. And similar thing will happen in case of your dependent pick list. If it will be 2 separate fields, your controlling field and your dependent field. So both will track it in.
As long as you're tracking both.
Yeah.
Right. So this means that I need to track both of them.
You're changing the data type of a field.
Sorry.
Like for example, you are changing the formula, say for a formula field to a normal.
So it's a data type, right? We are tracking data here. We are not tracking data type. It's for tracking your data. It's not for tracking your data type. And tracking, changing a data type is again, I think it's a separate big discussion. But this app is not for tracking your data type. Only your data. But whenever you make any changes, this app knows which data type that field is for, right? So here in this particular view, you just see the old value and the new value, right? But this is the object, history object, where you can see everything, right? So like account, fax, and phone number I changed. If I go to this field here, you'll see the data type is phone. Okay, so it is tracking which data type was what was the field data type when we tracked it. But what was the old one? We don't know. Yeah.
Is this object big object type or normal type?
It's a normal object, custom object.
Then it will have millions of records.
Correct, right? I will come. I'm coming to that. Okay, so that was about the demo.
I know the downside.
What does that custom object option do in that package? It's a checkbox I saw that earlier.
Which one, sorry?
Can you just open that manage package when you're creating?
Oh yeah, I know where you're saying. Right, this one. Yeah. Right. So this is an object. So this basically you can just check the checkbox if you are creating your own custom object. It doesn't do anything. It just tells you that you have created your own custom object, because this is the object which Salesforce has provided to track it. But you have an option where you can create your own custom object and track it. So if you, let's say, want to see, okay, I created my own custom object and I want to track it, you can see it here that, okay, I created my own custom object, and you can just check it. It doesn't do anything. It just tells you that you have created your own custom object. Right. Okay. Coming to some of the things you need to think about before you start using this app. Okay. So first of all, like in case of normal out-of-the-box tracking and Shield, you have an option where it's not an option, but it's available that you can track it only for 18 months. But here that's not an option. It will track forever. So you need to think about it. But it can be positive in a way as well, because like I said earlier, right, we had a requirement once where client wanted to track it for 10 years, but with standard out of the box, we can't do that. So this is an option where I can keep it for 10 years, and then after I can create some purge rule or something, right? So that's one. Each record in out of the box history tracking, it doesn't take any space. It comes along with Salesforce, but it doesn't take any space out of your pocket, right? But this will take this space out of your pocket. So each record takes 2 KB of space. So like I made changes in one of the account record, 2 changes I made in account number and phone number and fax number, right? Yeah. So that's like 4 KB of space. So you need to be mindful of how many, that's why I said earlier, you need to be mindful of how many fields you track, because each record is taking 2 KB of space, right? And so yeah, it can fill the space of your org very quickly if you track a lot of fields.
Or loading the records as well.
Yeah.
But 4 KB won't be benchmarked because we are also tracking rich text area, right? So if the content is large,
it belongs, yeah.
Yeah, of course, yeah. True. But most of the fields are usually those type, right, which take 2 KB of space, and that's why we are considering it as 2 KB.
How is it behaving in deletion? Like the triggers, I didn't check the trigger code. Does it also cover
delete? Yes, it does. So I can show that as well. So when you delete a record, it just tells you that something has been deleted.
So it would say that the record has been deleted, or it will go every single field that has been tracked?
No, it will just record, just the record. Just the record, yeah.
Well, that is somewhat economical.
Because recycle in 30 days, right? After that it's gone.
So if you, although it takes 2 KB of space per record, but you can create your own methods, right? Like Salesforce Archive is one of the option, own archive. It archive as well as it can purge if you want, right? So you can use this tool, but of course it's paid.
Well, if you use OnArchive gives you a similar solution, so you wouldn't need this.
Yeah. And the second one is you can create your own custom solution. It's pretty simple. You can create your custom metadata or something with the fields, object, retention days, how many days you want to retain, and you create a bad job and delete the records you want to, right? So you can create a simple custom solution as well. You don't need to spend so much money just for deleting these records, right? That can be pretty simple. Two more things about the LWC, right? So like one I have already explained, encryption, right? Like encrypted data is visible in your LWC component. That's one of the drawback. And the second one is LWC. I think you might have seen, I always refresh this LWC component after making any changes, because it doesn't, even if you refresh the page, it doesn't refresh automatically. You have to refresh this manually. So every time you make any changes, so let's say if I change the priority here from medium to high, even though this page has refreshed, or even I refresh this page manually, it doesn't change. I have to refresh this LWC component.
When you hard refresh, it will show you the new data. No, the hard refresh from the browser.
Oh, browser, yeah, of course. But if you're on the record, even if you refresh the page, it doesn't make, it doesn't refresh, right? So you have to manually go and refresh it. So that's one of the drawback. So these are some of the things you need to consider before you using it. And if you think that there is a way out, then of course go ahead and use this app. It's brilliant.
This is actually maintained by Salesforce Labs, or we just dropped 3-4 years ago, and we just say go and use it. Right?
It's relatively new, right? 7-8 months.
Yeah, it's pretty new. Yeah, it's pretty new.
Question. Yeah, that's the point. With the Salesforce Labs, there's no guarantee. You get something out of box built, but it comes with no bells attached.
It has an AppExchange page, so we can see how many times it has been upgraded since it passed security review.
Guys, this is a free. You know how it is. Customers ask you for something, you say, yeah, go on Archive, go Shield. So I don't want to pay for it. So this is free. It's free. It comes with whatever you get.
Last year, December.
So yeah, there might be some minor updates, but not some significant updates. So yeah.
So that's the last review version, but it doesn't tell you what is the current version that is published.
Oh, last release is
last release is a bit upwards. Yeah, there you go.
say February.
Last release is February. Yeah.
That's the one.
I think it's the first version.
That's very active.
That's surprising.
Can you believe that there are some passionate developers in Salesforce?
and they give you stuff for free? Amazing. I know.
And so many of them left.
I couldn't find any users
You mentioned about big objects in your solution before.
Yeah.
And then you've shown this, which is just custom objects. Does it do big objects as well, or is it just custom objects?
So this one is a custom object. So if you build it yourself, if you think you're going to have millions of records and you worry about storage, big object is a nice option for cheaper storage. Still, big objects you pay after 1 million, but it's much lower. But then your component will have to do async, SOCL, and different considerations.
Yeah, I think that's it from our side. Yeah, any other question?